Welcome to CEO Connect, brought to you by CU Solutions Group. In this month's episode, President and CEO Dave Adams discusses the future of work environments.
As I speak with credit union leaders every week about organizational culture considerations, it's clear that the COVID-19 pandemic has created both opportunities and challenges associated with the work from home phenomenon. These issues have both short-term and long-term implications, to be sure. Of course, none of us had a choice in the short term. We were thrust into a remote work world, ready or not. But now, as leaders who understand that perhaps our greatest responsibility is to foster an amazing culture for our employees, we realize that we better get busy planning for the long haul. Now, for CU Solutions Group and the Michigan Credit Union League and our 150 employees, the lights are still off in our two offices as we keep our employees safe in a completely remote work environment. It's been somewhat different for credit unions, obviously, as most have returned to open branch operations and at least partial opening of in-office operations in administrative centers and so on, with, of course, safety precautions for employees. Out of necessity, credit unions continue to stretch to meet the retail banking needs of their members and their small business members with an omni-channel approach that includes branches and drive-through service. But whether for credit unions or support organizations, leaders are universally considering what the more permanent approach for remote work will look like. Most leaders tell me that they'll indeed take a hybrid approach with three categories of positions, one being in office or in branch, two being totally remote, and three being a hybrid mix of remote and in office or in branch. For those of us without retail-facing operations, the hybrid approach has more to do with the percentage of time that employees work completely remotely. Now, for CUSG, with our approximately 23,000 square foot lease expiring in November of this year, my knee-jerk reaction was initially to seize the opportunity for tremendous cost savings and achieving an employee morale boost at the same time by declaring that we were never going back to the traditional office. Now, our plan was to downsize by 2/3 and allow all staff to work remotely, using the office only for collaboration, shared office cubes, board and departmental meetings, and external relations with prospective partners, visitors, and so on. But as I've learned and pondered the trade-offs of remote work and discussed them with other leaders and our team members, I realize now that I may have initially overreacted. Instead, I now favor a company-wide hybrid approach to remote work that includes a certain minimum level of being in office for all staff, with the exception of those who live out of state. And there are three primary reasons for this. The first two are the most important, but essentially my three reasons can be summarized as: one, the need for human connection and community; two, employee emotional well-being; and three, to a lesser extent, staff appreciation for the work from home benefit that comes with not being forced to work remotely. As we downsize our offices and focus on the future, of course, we'll survey our employees and their supervisors to determine which positions and employees fit best in the three categories of remote, in office, or hybrid. Even after the categorization effort, however, will likely require and encourage at least 20% or 1 day per week equivalent in a group office environment when we reopen our safe and secure office on or around August 1st of 2021, of course, subject to the distribution of vaccines and the evolution of the virus and its impact. Now, for decades, employees have been asking for greater flexibility to work from home. We all know that. And as companies have moved partially or completely in that direction, a lot has been learned. For instance, according to a recent McKinsey study, 80% of employees surveyed said they enjoyed working from home, 80%. 41% said they were more productive at home, and another 28% said they were just about as productive. Of course, that means 31% were less productive, and some 20% don't enjoy working remotely. The bottom line of this and other studies is that remote work is not for everyone, and leaders should take that into consideration to develop a hybrid approach versus a universal one-size-fits-all arrangement. Now, Derek Thompson, staff writer for The Atlantic publication, describes the coronavirus as a, quote, huge, stressful experiment in working from home, close quote. He points out that even before the pandemic, the remote work portion of the labor force had tripled in the past 15 years, driven by living costs in metropolitan areas with the highest density of knowledge workers and new models from primarily technology companies. He also cited several case studies that show how remote work can impede creativity in some cases, affect employee happiness and productivity for some, and the biggest revelation that overshadowed all else, loneliness, in a word. Beyond the lost creativity and companionship fostered by an office, remote work in many cases can put a damper on productive teamwork and employee development. Of course, on the flip side, fortunately, most employees may thrive in a work from home, work from anywhere model. The average daily commute in the United States recently hit an all-time record of 27 minutes one way, average. So taking an hour or more away from your day is a big deal for most of us. And obviously the win-win inherent in lower facility costs for the company and more time with the family and friends for employees just makes sense, but not universally so for all employees. And that is the point of a hybrid approach. If leaders of credit unions and credit organizations can seize this moment to plan for an effectively implemented hybrid model, there is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to maximize employee wellness and satisfaction while reducing organizational costs and improving productivity and pricing value to members, a true win-win. Now, the McKinsey Group suggests 4 steps to reimagine work and workplaces when undertaking this management exercise, which should be a priority for all of us. First, we must reconstruct how work is done. This means challenging supervisors and employees to understand which functions can be performed remotely versus in person. And for individual employees, this means making sure that we understand their preferences and abilities so they can align with those new requirements. Employee wellness and professional development also needs to be considered. Avoid the temptation to revert to the old ways of doing things for all after the pandemic, or to push too hard in the direction of universal remote work on the other end of the spectrum. Like most other management practices, each position and every employee deserve a thoughtful and dynamic approach in order to achieve a good fit. Next, decide people to work or work to people, according to McKinsey. Once the inventory and analysis have been started, the process for alignment begins. That is, deciding whether employees should be completely remote, completely in office, or in branch, or a hybrid of the two. For the hybrid, the percentage of time remote work will be done has to be determined. Now, as we assess the trade-offs here at our organization, CU Solutions Group and Michigan Credit Union League, we are leaning toward requiring or encouraging all staff to be in office at least 1 day per week, or approximately 20% when we reopen. Of course, this will vary up or down depending on positions and employee needs and capabilities. The reason for the mandatory minimum is that we feel that almost universally, employees need to feed that human need for connection and community, fostering better employee wellness and appreciation for the work from home benefit. Now, third, according to McKinsey, redesign the workplace to support organizational priorities. The redesign of a facility or facilities will always be a means to an end of improved member service and the creation of a happy and productive environment for employees. It's not the be-all, end-all, but an important means to those objectives. The office of the future will likely have more shared offices, perhaps universally including the CEO's office, with more conference rooms and collaborative space, as well as features that enhance training, development, and the greeting of visitors and members. Of course, there will be important technology considerations, that's already underway for the short term and the long haul, and safety considerations in the near term to assure a clean, safe environment for all. And with all of this, it's important to achieve a blend of in-person and remote capabilities for video conferencing, networking, and collaboration. We need to learn from the COVID environment and the things that really work remotely and make sure that we embrace those. And finally, resize the footprint creatively. McKinsey suggests a transformational dynamic approach, an iterative process, if you will, beginning with a foundation of concepts and values, but with a willingness to adapt and learn as needed. This has always been the case, but creating a dynamic approach to office design is more important now than it has ever been. Across the economy, McKinsey estimates that time worked in main and satellite offices will decline by 12 and 9% respectively, while flex office space will hold about the same, and work from home will increase to 27% of work time from 20%. Of course, for credit unions and support organizations, I think these shifts will likely be much more dramatic than what McKinsey describes for the economy as a whole. Now, we intend to use a cross-divisional team approach to consider all of the important opportunities for improving organizational culture that takes full advantage of this hybrid remote work concept. McKinsey suggests that these changes may not only improve how work is done, but also lead to real savings. That's rather obvious. Rent, capital costs, facilities, operations, maintenance, and management make real estate one of the largest cost categories for credit unions and support organizations. So managing it effectively should be a top priority. Managing these costs has always been a priority, and the COVID environment learnings can prove invaluable for finding the proper decisions as we move forward. But opportunities for improving employee health and satisfaction should overshadow all cost efficiency benefits. As McKinsey points out, quote, a well-planned return to offices can use this moment to reinvent their role and create a better experience for talent, improve collaboration and productivity, and reduce costs, close quote. Arguably, this should be a top 5 priority for every credit union, every company's strategic plan, given the important implications for both operating costs and staff morale. Studies have shown that when employees are given choice over the schedule and location of their work, the psychological, physical, and productivity benefits can double. But working from home isn't always the best option for employee wellness and happiness, certainly not in every case. Organizations need to provide the proper facilities, coaching support, and organizational culture dynamics for periodic connection and collaboration. And even though loneliness, depression in some cases, and reduced productivity may only pertain to a small portion of our teams, we don't want anyone to be negatively impacted by an opportunity that benefits most, but not all of us. These are the opportunities and challenges associated with a hybrid work from home model. Now is the time for us as leaders to seize that opportunity to take full advantage of this unique opportunity.